Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Knife Chats with Tobias. So I'm calling this video Spyderco and the Meaning of Knives. And that's really because this video, while I'm going to be talking about Spydercos, the video really isn't about Spydercos. It's really more about collecting knives and using knives and purchasing knives. But with that said, the video really was inspired by my my experience with Spyderco knives. And one of the things I did before I go on anymore, this is my little GEC Templar. It came with a cute little button. That's part of I put out a bunch of other knives here other than Spydercos because what the heck, this is a channel that usually features traditional pattern knives and things like Swiss Army knives, like this one here. This is the goat knife from Greatest of All Time knife that Smoky Mountain Knife Works came out with. They put it on a Tinker frame. I don't like Tinkers, so I put it on an Explorer frame. So now I have a proper Phillips driver on my knife. I've got a nice magnifying glass. The interesting thing is when I was buying this Tinker, it's mint. It was new in the box. The person selling it was selling it as mint, new in the box, and I got one that was mint, new in the box. But I got one with the old style magnifying glass, and this is the one time when I was actually hoping to get a new magnifying glass. But anyway, I did not like the Tinker, so I turned it into an Explorer. So I have all sorts of cool things on there, also like a pair of scissors. I was thinking about putting this on a Huntsman, but I just put the that other knife, the Bomber, on a Huntsman frame. So that's why I went with the Explorer with this one. But anyway, let's get back to the meaning of knives and how it came about because of Spyderco. As you remember, I recently picked up this Spyderco. This is the Para 3, and I picked it up because of the CPM SPY Spy 27 steel, which is not a bad steel. You see the marks there? That's actually from me using it, and that's actually glue residue from tape, so I'm going to have to clean up my blade. Anyway, before I do that, I'm going to have to also switch the pocket clip over to left-hand carry. And yeah, actually a lot of people were telling me to go ahead and get that little device to get this so I can open it with the little button thing that costs like 25 bucks. Well, I'm more than happy to do that and not spend another $25 on the knife. And if I do want to get into the whole flippy thingy, I can always go right-handed. I'm not completely useless with my right hand. I just happen to be left-handed, and I like to use the left hand. But in any case, it was when I was picking up this knife that, well, a lot of people made some comments on the webpage or on the Facebook, on YouTube. I don't even see what happens when I try to do two things at the same time. People are talking to me about YouTube and how they just don't like Spyderco. And so what I did, and I posted it not only on my YouTube channel, but I also went into the SMKW Army on Facebook, and also on another site on Facebook, and posted a couple polls about Spyderco knives, asking people what they thought of them, if they liked them, they loved them, or if they hated them, and all sorts of other things about Spyderco. Yeah, this is turning into Williams Knife Life, I swear. Can I get it back in there? I gotta get that back in there. All right. Okay, unbeknownst to me, there was a flat edge on this little rivet thingy here, which is basically a compression screw. And I needed to line it up just right so that I could replace the spring. In any case, I posted this poll in numerous places asking if people liked, loved, hated, were indifferent to Spyderco, and a few other questions in there, and got a lot of answers. And as I suspected, the majority of the people responding said that they either liked it or loved it. Interesting enough, there were also people who said they were indifferent. Now, I assume that the people who said they were indifferent would be people who did not own a Spyderco and really had never thought about buying one. But that wasn't the case. There were a couple people who were indifferent to Spyderco who actually owned them. And there were a couple people who liked Spyderco but never bought one or used one. But they still liked the company. And there was a few people who had actually bought Spydercos and used them and just did not like them. But the basic, let me see, I would say about half the people who responded said they either liked or loved Spyderco. Very small percentage, maybe 5-10% were indifferent. And then there was a small portion, a very small portion, maybe 1 or 2 people who said that they bought Spyderco and just hated them. A few people who bought them and were indifferent to them. And then a large chunk of people who, almost like 25%, just did not like Spyderco. They never bought one, never used one. They just did not like Spyderco. And a portion of those were because of the price. They weren't going to buy one simply because of the price. There were some people who were indifferent because of the price. But the vast majority of people just said they just didn't like Spyderco. You know, about 25% of the people just said they just don't like Spyderco. This brought me back to something that I was told a long time ago. I must have been like 18, 19 years old when a person told me, Toby, no matter what you do in life, you are going to have 25% of the people who you meet are going to like you, 25% of the people you meet are going to not like you, and 50% of the people you meet are going to have no opinion of you whatsoever. And if you do something to change yourself, you will end up with, to get that 25% or that 50% who are indifferent to you or hate you, if you do something to change to get them to like you, what you're going to end up with is 25% of the people you knowing liking you, 25% of the people you know hating you, and 50% of the people being indifferent to you. It's just the way it goes. And it seems that's kind of the way it goes with Spyderco knives. There are just going to be people who just don't like Spyderco. And it's the same thing with Swiss Army knives. There are people who just don't like Swiss Army knives. They don't like the way they look. They don't use them. They never carried them. And you go, well, have you carried one? You should try it. I mean, it's a really good knife, and and all this other stuff. And it doesn't matter. Even if they try it, some of them may say, you know what, I changed my mind. I actually do like Spyderco after all. I was one of those people. I would say I was indifferent to Spyderco. Didn't really, until I bought one, and then it's like, hey, that's pretty cool. I actually like it, and that's why I now have, 3 of them. This is the first one I ever bought. Most people would not even consider it really a Spyderco. It's just a little slip joint. But I like it, and it worked really well. And I have a metal lark there somewhere that's a bird, but I'm talking about regular Spydercos. This is the second Spyderco I ever bought, the Dragonfly, and I really like this one. Matter of fact, this is one I carry all the time. I've been carrying this one a little bit, but Actually, I prefer the Dragonfly over this, despite the compression lock and, you know, how easy it is to open and blah, blah, blah. I can flip this open and it closes really well. Yeah, you can drop shutty it and all that other stuff. But those are things that I'm indifferent to. I don't care if I can, you know, I don't care if it, about that action. It does nothing for me. It's cool, I guess. It's cooler when I'm not doing it on camera, but pretty much I'm indifferent to that. What I do like is the fact that it's a knife that I can easily open one-handed, and I do that, and it cuts stuff. So that's why I like it, but I can understand that a lot of people, they look at this, they don't like the way it looks, and so they're not going to buy it. Now, at first, I was thinking, well, you know, that's kind of crappy. You don't even know if the knife is any good or not, but you just looked at it and you said, I don't want it. But the thing is I do the same thing. Quite frankly, that's why you don't see a Benchmade here. I look at Benchmades, and the same thing with Cold Steel. I look at Benchmade, I look at Cold Steel, I look at them and go, they just don't do anything for me when I look at them. And I think that's the case with most people. The thing that really draws people to a knife, such as this little Cub lockback, I'm going to have a little bit of a story about this one pretty soon too, about the pattern and everything. It's going to be something that blows a few people's minds away, I think. But anyway, some people look at this and go, it's too small, I don't like it, I don't care for it. Other people look at it and go, man, it's perfect, just what I was looking for. And that's the thing. Not every knife is for everybody, and really, that's really the bottom line. Not every knife is for everybody. So some people, they're going to like a Cub lockback. Some people are going to love a Marlin spike. This one's kind of cool, I think. I brought it out because it's I think this is called like Toxic Swirl or something. I saw one knife on the SMKW webpage. It was not the Marlin spike that was done in this material. It showed up. It was like on order, and then just disappeared, never showed up again. And I think this is something that they were going to produce and never produced. I don't know. In any case, I got a Marlin spike knife in this Toxic Swirl. And I bought that from somebody else. In any case, I thought it was pretty cool. Some people, though, they don't like these knives at all. And why should they? If you're somebody who's into sailing and stuff, then yeah, you understand the purpose of the knife, you like the knife, and you use the knife. And you think it's kind of cool looking. Other people look at it and go, big heavy thing, got this big metal bar on the bottom that's useless, and I can buy another knife that's got just a sheepfoot blade and it's a lot cheaper, and maybe you don't even like the sheepfoot blade, so who cares? And that's just kind of the way it goes. And like with the Spyderco knives, well, now they got the bird line out there, which is a lot less expensive, but I can imagine when these were first coming out and you looked at the price of them, it's like, it's kind of funky, and people say, yeah, but it's really ergonomic and it really feels good in the hand and everything, and you're like looking at it going, yeah, well, it might be ergonomic and it might feel good in the hand, but at the same time, it's an $80 knife or it's a $100 knife, and I'm not going to spend $100 on a knife only to find out I don't like the way it feels in my hand, especially when I looked at it to begin with and said, man, that looks kind of funky and ugly. So, you know, two things kind of kill a knife for a lot of people. One of them is the price, and the other one is the way it looks. I think that's why Spyderco finally came out with the bird line, is because they figured, well, maybe if we can get people hooked on the bird line and they kind of use it and feel like it works in my hand and it feels good and I can use it and I like it and it cuts really well, the steel's decent, they'll go, well, this has got 813C or whatever the number is, and I can't even think of it right now. You know, in the bird line, I can get a better steel on the Spyderco line, and I really like the way my bird works. I bet you the Spyderco will work better. And yeah, I will tell you, the Spyderco, I think, does work better than bird. I can't tell you that it works 4 times better, because that's kind of what the prices tend to be, you know, anywhere from double or triple or quadruple the price of a bird. I think the but you see what I'm getting at. So, but if, like with the Benchmade knives, I think they're kind of ugly looking. I know how the axis lock works. I used that on a knife or so. I wasn't that crazy about it because, like I just mentioned a minute ago, you know, flippy, drop shutty, that means nothing to me. If I can do this with the knife, I'm happy with it. I don't need the knife to go real fast or anything. So drop shutty isn't a big thing to me. One hand opening, that's kind of cool. But if I don't like the way the knife looks, and the one feature that people brag about on it is that it drop shuts real easy, you know, am I really going to spend $100 for the knife, regardless of what the steel is in there, or $200 or $300? No. And that's really what it comes down to. I think the number one driving force on knife purchases is the aesthetics of the knife. If the person looks at it and says, I like the way that knife looks, that is really cool, I want to get it. And then the next thing they do is they look at the price and then they go, do I want to get it at that price? And sometimes the answer is yes, and sometimes the answer is no. For the longest time, for me, the answer was no, I don't want to buy that knife at that price. But it slowly worked its way in, simply because, number one, I bought a bird. I kind of liked it. And I immediately realized that I'm not going to buy one in stainless steel, a Spyderco in stainless steel, because it weighs too much. So the FRN handles was the way I was going to go with it, because I knew they were lighter. And the first one I ended up picking up was the Dragonfly. And interesting enough, the one thing about the Dragonfly when I first got it that bugged me was the way the ramp worked right here. And notice how it comes to a little bit of a point there, and then you got the swedge on the top of the blade. And it's like, I like it, but I don't like the way this little knob right there feels in my pocket. And I'd be hitting that and I don't like that sharp point. And I was actually thinking for the longest time, well, I'm just going to grind down that point. But I kept thinking, well, if I buy another Spyderco, I'll grind down the point. Well, instead I ended up getting the Para 3 here. And if you notice, the Para 3, it rolls across the top there. And when I had the knife open like that, it doesn't have that point that the Dragonfly has. And I keep going, man, I wish the Para 3 had the little point like the Dragonfly has. So I ended up saying, this is a feature that I actually like on it. It took a year for me to realize that it was something I actually preferred on the knife than the jimping that you have on the Para 3. I like the way this jimping goes, and the little certainty of the little point there as opposed to the round top. So that's why the Dragonfly remains my favorite Spyderco, simply because of a little feature like that. But anyway, as you see, yeah, I'm talking Spyderco, but it really comes down to just about any knife out there. You can grab a knife and you go, oh, man, I didn't think I was going to like that because of how small it was. Well, I knew I was going to like this because I've had little Coke bottles before, and this is a little Coke bottle, and so when I saw it, it's like, all right, I'm going to pull the trigger. I'm finally going to buy my first GEC, and so I got the little Templar, and I was happy as the proverbial pig, and you know what? Starts with a P, OOP. And same with other things, you know. That's just the way it goes. And I think that's really what it comes down with a lot of people is you buy knives for a large portion of it because you like the way it looks. And then later on, if it ends up cutting well and doing other things well, then you start loving that knife and you end up saying, I want to get more of those. As it is, will I get more Spydercos? I might get another Dragonfly, but yeah, I'm kind of good with what I got. I like what I got. Really happy with what I got. I read up on the company. I really liked the company history. I thought it was kind of humorous and funny, and you know, look back at it and I think, what's his name? Sal Glesser. Reading up on it, it's like, man, that's kind of cool. Going around selling knives out of an old van, out of an old bread truck and everything. And it's like, that's a cool story. And so, you know, I just thought of him as like this hippie from the 70s out there selling knives out of a truck. Actually, it was knife sharpeners and stuff, but eventually knives. And then the way he came about, all he was after was a knife that he could open with one hand, and that's how he came up with the hole in the blade. And I like the hole in the blade because it really does make the knife left, right-handed very easily. And I also like the way they shape the grips on their knives. The fact that this side is the same as this side. So I will probably never buy a true liner lock Spyderco for sure, because with liner locks, one side is always different than the other, and I like the sides being the same. I like a little bit of symmetry in there. If I take off this the clip here, then this knife is symmetrical in almost every way except for right there. So I don't know. Anyway, definitely a ramble, long ramble too, but and it really just comes down to me rambling because I wanted to tell you the results of that poll that basically said that about half the people who said who commented either liked or loved Spydercos. A small portion really were indifferent to it, and then there was that chunk at the bottom there that really just did not like Spyderco, and it really does seem that it just came down to the fact, at least with most of them, the fact that they just don't like the way it looks. And that's kind of like the way it is. I think that's really the biggest driving force when it comes to collecting knives. Do you like the way it looks, or do you not like the way it looks? And if you don't like the way it looks, it's going to be very, very difficult for anyone to convince you that you should buy it. Anyway, I guess I'll let you go now. Talk to you again soon. What do you think of the show so far? Was that a yes or a no? Let me take just a second to thank you once again for dropping by and spending a few minutes here at Knife Chats with the Pious. I really do appreciate it, and I do appreciate any comments that you leave. So please remember to give me that thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you'll know when the next episode is up and running. Thanks again for dropping by. Really do appreciate your time here.